Hello, everyone. It's Stan. Just wanted to say welcome to the Women's Leadership Conference. I'm sorry I'm not joining you today virtually. I am actually on a furlough day today, so I'm just coming to you today from my home office, as you can tell by me and my fish. I just wanted to welcome everybody and say I hope you take advantage of this day to learn from the experiences of the women leaders in the department and how they progressed through their career and some of the things that they did to better their position and also the challenges that they met. You know, the women that are on the panel today are great representations of leaders in our department, but they're not the only ones. Many of the people that might be on this conference as well, and others that are unable to make it, are also great women leaders in the department and are just as capable of being panelists today as these women are. But we just, you can't make a panel that's entirely too big. I just want to acknowledge that we have a lot of diversity of women that could be panelists today and share some really important experiences. This is really not just a one-time event. What we're really trying to spark in you is the opportunity to learn from people, to build mentorship, to be able to connect with other women in the department who are in leadership positions, both formally and informally. Don't forget, many of the women in our department are informal leaders in their work units and their groups, and really probably are the future formal leaders as well. So I hope you have a great day. We have been really proud. I have been proud of placing women in leadership positions throughout my career, both in my prior career in the sheriff's office and here at CDPS. Does it mean that we can't do better? I believe we can do better, and we'll continue to work to do better in that regard. But we have to be proud of the great women that we have throughout the entire department. And, I'm really excited for you all to be exposed to their experiences. So anyway, again, sorry I couldn't make it today, but I hope you have a good day and I hope you get something out of this. But I also hope that it's not just a one-time event for you. What we really want to try to do is make sure that you build connections, build relationships, and continue to stay connected and learn from each other, and even be mentored by some of the women that are in leadership positions here at the department. So have a good day, everybody. Bye.
Wonderful. Thank you to all our panelists for being here today and for everyone who's listening. We're going to jump into some questions, and if we have time, we'll open up questions to you all at the end, but we're going to start with pre-prepared questions for our panelists. And the first one is, we just want to know a little bit about your journey and how you arrived at your leadership position. All of the women on this panel today have crushed that glass ceiling and have risen to some of the highest levels possible within our public safety organization. And so tell us a little bit about your journey. Let's start with Jana Lock, our Deputy Director of the entire CDPS. Jana, tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to this leadership position.
Thanks, Patricia. Sure. So I've been at the Department of Public Safety for almost 11 years now. And I started my career actually, though, as a print journalist. So how I got from there to here has been a little bit of a less than linear path. But a couple of things I wanted to highlight. I had the opportunity to serve as a presidential management fellow in the Department of Justice right after completing my graduate degree. And that was really a pivotal moment for me, not because of the work I was doing necessarily, but because of the importance that it showed me of perspective. So one of the key parts of this fellowship was that you got to rotate around and do different things. You had a job, and that was your job, but you got to try out different things. And that has been really important for me in seeking out other jobs and trying to help others, mentoring others, is sharing that perspective. I think that people do better when they know better, when they see better, and having a broader understanding of the big picture of what we are all doing helps every single day. So that's a key part of what I try to do now, is give people that perspective, how what they are doing contributes to the broader good, the bigger picture. After I finished that fellowship, I came back to Denver. I'm from Denver. The fellowship was in Washington, D.C., and I went to work in the governor's office under Governor Ritter, doing budget work for the Colorado Department of Public Safety. That was my assignment. And so I got to know all the great people at public safety. It just was a great place to work. I've worked now with 4 executive directors, all of whom are phenomenal, all different, but phenomenal. And so I was really excited when I had the opportunity in 2010 to come over to the department as the legislative liaison. So I worked in that role for about 6.5 years, had the opportunity to learn so much more about the department, to build relationships across the department, and again, have a bird's eye view of really what we were doing. And then I had the opportunity after that to become the Chief Planning and Communications Officer for the department. And then in 2018, I was so honored when I was selected to be the Deputy Executive Director. So that's been my journey from before CDPS to now. Like Susan Medina said, I love every single day here. This is an amazing place to work because of the people here. So I'm just so proud to be here with all of you today.
Wonderful. Melissa, you also had a kind of non-traditional path to your leadership position. Tell us about your journey.
Sure. So I think my journey is unique for a couple of reasons. One, I started in 2013 with the Department of Public Safety as a temp aide. So there was a big consolidation in 2012 where all of the state fire functions came into public safety, and they needed somebody to sort of update old contracts and do administrative roles. And I had just graduated with my law degree and was actually working at a coffee shop. I passed the bar, but could not find a law job. And so through a connection, I interviewed for a temp aide policy analyst job within public safety. I got it after 9 months. They said, hey, we think we need somebody like this permanently. So I got brought on as a permanent position. And then the 2014 legislative session was a big whirlwind for public safety, where we got some new aerial firefighting resources. And part of that was standing up a center of excellence for advanced technology aerial firefighting. And the director of the division at the time said, hey, you've been doing a lot of stakeholder work. Why don't you go take on this project as the interim director and try to figure out what this looks like? And I gotta tell you, if you ever have the opportunity to stand up a new government program, take it. It is terrifying. There's been so many times in this job where I have had no idea what was next or what I was doing, but I just dug in. I did my research. I asked for help. I talked to people. I found out that I have these skill sets that I had no idea I had. I love facilitating meetings. Anybody in my agency will tell you I always have a pad of giant chart paper next to me because let's all get on the same page and let's all talk about what we're doing moving forward. So after I was the interim director, I loved that so much. The director at the time said, hey, nobody knows more about this Center of Excellence than you do. Would you consider being the permanent director? And at the time, I was living with my 2 dogs in Denver, and the Governor Hickenlooper put the Center of Excellence in Rifle on the Western Slope. And I was like, I'm going to sell my house, and my dogs and I are going to move to Rifle, and we're going to hire the entire staff, and we're going to stand this up and make this program successful. And so I got to do that, and that was really exciting, even though I had to overcome, hey, I'm not a firefighter, I'm not a technologist, but I'm gonna make the best dang Center of Excellence for Advanced Technology Aerial Firefighting that I could possibly create, and was able to hire just a really incredible staff who has carried that vision on. And then when Director Morgan was looking to hire a chief of staff in 2017, I already had a relationship with him, and I saw the sort of alignment, our complementary skill sets there. And so I think for me, the pivotal moments have been hearing about an opportunity and saying yes, and just overcoming that fear of, hey, I might not succeed in this, but be willing to be surrounded by people who are supportive and to fail forward. So that's been my journey, and I think it's really prepared me for this leadership position, because especially during COVID, it's just different every day. There's new things being thrown at us, and knowing that I can do that, knowing that I can take on these new challenges and be successful, again, because of that network and that flexibility, has been huge in helping me sort of shape who I am as a leader today and feel like I'm being successful in this position.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Kirstie, you also have such an interesting career path, including getting a law degree well into your professional career. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Well, I think I have some similarities to Melissa's experience in getting a law degree, but yeah, you know, I got married early, had a son, ended up as a single parent here in Denver, and you know, it turns out my survival skill was waitressing, and I learned that having a survival skill is really important, and eventually made my way back to college. I had 1 year under my belt, but I still needed to finish my undergraduate degree. So I was able to do that while my son was also in kindergarten and first grade. I got my undergraduate degree when I was 30, so I was kind of a late starter. And in the meantime, I started working for the state of Colorado. I was an administrative assistant, and I was with the Division of Purchasing. I had a boss who was in the evening law school program, which I knew about because I had come from the University of Denver, and I had actually worked at DU as a secretary in the law school. So one day he told me, as I was toiling away typing up all of his documents and taking dictation, he told me that I'd make a great legal secretary, and I took that as a really good challenge to become a law student and go to law school instead of being a legal secretary. So, you know, I think to me the lesson learned there is sometimes people might make a statement to you that might be limiting, and maybe they don't know all that much about you, and I think you just need to follow your true self and take a challenge, take something on that maybe you didn't exactly plan for, and you know, in the end, going to law school, and I continued to work full-time for the state while I went to law school and obtained my degree, and I think I was about 40. I just remember the summer I was studying for the bar exam was also the same summer my son was learning to drive, and I always say I passed the bar and he got his license that same summer, so it was a good summer. By then I'd been with the state for some time, and I was really deciding what to do with my career, whether I would go practice law somewhere or stay with state government. And I ended up having some really great opportunities in state government that led me to staying with state government. And kind of like Melissa, you know, I fell on some different things. I eventually had become a contract and purchasing manager while I was finishing law school. And I took on a temporary assignment to what then was the OIT division within DPA to take over their contracts. The person who had been doing that had left, and they had a lot of contracts. They had a lot of contracts that were expired. I had to write a lot of those memos to the state controller asking for forgiveness in terms of being able to renew contracts that had already expired. And you know, I really didn't know much about the IT world, and it was a little daunting, but I took it on. And you know, eventually I made my way to the motor vehicle division and learned a whole lot about motor vehicle law and titles and registrations and driver's licenses, and had the opportunity then to apply for a promotion to be a division director. And one of the divisions that was open was motor carrier services, which included the port of entry. So long story short, as you all know, that became part of the port of entry became part of the Colorado State Patrol in 2012. And you know, I guess a lot of things in my life have been more serendipitous than planned. When I took on the Motor Carrier Services Division at Motor Vehicle, I was very naive, really, about it being any sort of, I didn't know that much about the trucking industry. I knew about state law, I knew about rulemaking, I knew about budgets, I knew about a lot of those components, but I really had to take on some of the additional knowledge with regard to commercial motor vehicles. And I think my naivete with regard to it being a male-dominated industry was good, because I just went into it with the attitude of, I'll learn, I'll do what I can. I was nervous at first that I'd be able to take it on, but as my high school drama teacher said, when I was taking drama school then, was, you know what, a little nervousness is good because it just means you'll perform well. And that's something I've taken into my life, and the best advice I could give myself or anyone else. So thank you.
Right, thank you. Sheila, you've got an interesting story. If I understand correctly, this is basically a second career for you, that you are a retired veteran. Is that correct? And tell us about your journey.
I am. So when I got done with college, I thought I was going to go to law school. So I could have been like Melissa and Kirstie, but it didn't happen. Instead, I thought I'd do 3 years on active duty, 3 years in the reserves in the Marine Corps. And that was my goal. And then I was going to go to law school. But I really was enjoying what I was doing in the Marine Corps. And I never envisioned that I would stay 32 years, achieve the rank of colonel. And so the way we ended up in Colorado is that I had 2 assignments here. And when I got it was time to retire, I'd done a tour in Afghanistan, came home to retire. My children refused to move. And so they basically said, we're tired of moving. We're tired of moving schools. That's it. We're done. We're staying here. So the decision was made for me that I would need to find a job staying here. But I ended up going back to Afghanistan as a Minister of Defense advisor for the Afghan National Army. And I did that for 2 years. And then I fell into that job. And then I fell into another job in Ukraine as a team leader for the Organization for the Security and Cooperation in Europe. And then we had a health issue in the family and I needed to come home. So I came home, and then I fell into a job teaching at the University of Colorado at Boulder. And so I instructed there. And then I got a call from a friend who said, you know, I was considering this job as the chief of staff at DHSEM, but I'm not going to do it. You might be a really good candidate for the job. So I mulled it over and did an interview and put my resume in and came and interviewed with Kevin. I still think Kevin was preoccupied with the COVID virus when he interviewed me, and maybe that's how I got lucky. And I got the job. And it really wasn't something I was looking at doing. I just came up and I knew I could use my skills, so I took the position. And I will tell you, I'm happy not to be teaching at the university right now through COVID. It is really hard to teach online, and I did not enjoy that when it happened last year. So I'm thrilled to be here. And the interesting thing about being here is learning all the state rules over federal rules. And the state has daunting rules. And what's really neat is a lot of the folks that are on here today speaking are people that I call all the time and say, what about this? What are you doing about that? And that networking piece is so important to what we do with everybody. But as you see, a lot of us are in the positions we're in as deputies and chiefs of staff, and they're the perfect person to call. So instead of going to see your boss saying you don't understand, you go to them and say, I don't understand, could you help me out? So like I have a meeting with Melissa this afternoon to go over some issues that she hopefully can help me with, and things that she's dealing with in her own division. And you know, that's how we get things done, is through networking. And I just feel so blessed and so fortunate to have all these folks that are on today who can help me as I learn my new position.
Thank you, Sheila. And I'm pretty sure Kevin counts himself very lucky that we managed to pull you in with your amazing experience and international experience. And thank you for your service. And our next panelist, Debbie, you came to the Department of Public Safety from a human services background. Tell us about your journey.
Yes, so thank you. So it's funny listening to everyone here because like we said at the beginning, we're going to learn from one another and a little bit about one another's backgrounds. And I have some similarities to folks today, but I really would attribute my journey to passion for public service and social issues. I think about my childhood and kind of laugh because in the 6th grade, my science projects started out with teen suicide and substance abuse and alcoholism, rather than some of my friends who were making volcanoes erupt. Moving through my education, one critical aspect that I attribute a lot of my success to was having a mentor who really helped guide me find my path and connect my passion to a career. Similar to Jana, after graduate school, I received a presidential management fellowship and ironically landed in DC, also within the budget office of the Department of Justice, which is where Jana was. I started working as a budget analyst there, just recognizing how key budget is to really everything. Following that, I worked for the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, which brought me closer to my passions working on social issues. There, I had the chance to work across the country in different communities on systems change. And when I say systems change, I talk about really the cross sectors of criminal justice, mental health, human services. And during the course of that job, I happened to do some research and ran across the fact that Broomfield, Colorado was setting up a health and human services department. So somewhat naive, I thought, well, what better way to change the system but to have the opportunity to start something from the ground up. So again, as this young person who was again naive, as a 28-year-old, I decided, you know what, can't hurt to throw my hat in the ring. Wanted to return to my home state of Colorado. And with no child welfare experience or supervisory experience, I often wonder how another mentor of mine hired me to be in that position. I will tell you that I spent nights studying for a interview, which I had never done before, but was very determined to get this. So from that, I went to be the child welfare manager for Health and Human Services in Broomfield, setting that up from scratch. Later had the chance to go on to be the director, which gave me that greater scope in terms of the intersection of services. In 2017, I was offered this opportunity to come to the state, which really excited me because it was looking at that bigger picture again. So ironically, I started at the large federal level, then took my passion to how could I impact a specific community. And now I'm really excited to work on statewide issues. So my themes would be being at the right place at the right time, following your passion, and then following your passion makes it easy to work hard and really persevere.
I think you're on mute, Patricia.
Thank you, Susan. Well, you know that you are next on this same question, a little bit about your journey.
Thank you. What I love most about this is just hearing everybody's path and how they sort of overlap in how these go. It's ironic that Jana is one of my main mentors, and we sort of followed a similar path during our initial journeys. I too have a background in broadcast journalism. I know Jana was print side of the house, but I was broadcast journalism, and was going to set the world on fire, and landed a job immediately as a reporter in the field. Had a wee bit of a stumbling block on one of my first assignments when I couldn't be objective. I couldn't tell both sides of the story, and really had to take a hard look at my career, when I just studied 4 years of my life to do, and realized in that moment that I couldn't do it. And so looking at my career so far, my very young career, I had taken a PR class in college and fell in love with it, one class. So I took my resume and got an informational meeting with a PR head in Denver, one of the top PR houses here in town, and just wanted some guidance, like, how do I get my foot in the door? And that meeting lasted all of 5 minutes. She looked at my resume. She said that I would never make it in PR, and that I needed to go work in journalism because that was my background and that's where I belonged. And literally dismissed me. And it was probably the best meeting of my life. As I rode the elevator down, 30 floors of that massive building, there were two things that came to mind. One, don't tell me no. I can do anything I set my mind to. And two, I would never, ever, ever treat anybody like that in my life. So anybody who wants to come to me for advice, for mentorship, I would never say no. And I don't care how big or small. And certainly the call to this group, I love helping in any way I can. So I took that small resume and just started applying, and I landed on a team of PR people, believe it or not, with Federal Emergency Management Agency, and went to the front end of disaster sites those first 6 weeks when everything is very critical. And I was joined by people who had 40, 45 years of PR experience across the nation, like some of the best in the country, and was so blessed. So in that window of time with FEMA, I went to disasters from Alaska to St. Thomas and learned everything about the business. And for some of our younger panel or people on the call, there was this thing in the paper, the newspaper, this hard copy paper that folded out called the want ads. It had a want ad for the Arvada Police Department to become their public information officer. So I applied from a want ad from the paper, and somehow, again, very, very similar to some of our others on the call, like Debbie, no experience in law enforcement, but somehow landed this job and created a whole position Just a quick story, when I was offered the job, the title was Public Information Officer Assistant. And so my question to the chief was, who am I working for? Who is this person above me? And he said, oh yeah, about that. No, it's you. You're gonna go ahead and start that from the ground up. From there, I was worked some big cases, Columbine type cases that really shaped and molded my career there. And then was able to come to the CBI, where, again, had another opportunity to create a position that didn't exist before and grow it from the ground up, having had 17 years of experience in doing that at Arvada. So while I've been here, just the tremendous piece of this is service, and having the ability to not only help my director and the department, but working so closely with law enforcement CEOs across the state in their darkest times. I'm not coming to them when it's a sunny story about a seatbelt campaign. These are big things that are impacting them not only locally, but nationally and even internationally. So it's been a tremendous honor to help them. And then it's pivoted to this chief of staff position where I'm working on bigger policy issues, and certainly not alone. I'm calling my fellow CDPS members daily. Sarah and I have standing meetings that are just so helpful to me as I work my way through the daily operations here. My two themes for the team here is, one, mentors are critical. I'm looking at many faces here who I consider my mentors. They may know it or they may not. Jan Girten, I've looked up to you every day since I've been here, and I'm so grateful to be able to follow in your footsteps. So mentors are just a really big key. And then finally, just work hard. Don't let anybody tell you no, just work hard. And I'm telling you, good things happen when you work hard. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And for our remaining panelists who haven't gone into your journey, we're going to dig into a little bit, specifically public safety, law enforcement, fire, emergency response. It's a male-dominated career field. Historically, and then also the numbers still show that women are underrepresented, particularly in leadership positions. So for our next panelist, I'd like to ask you, what has it been like forging a career in your field? What challenges have you faced, and how did you overcome them? And let's start with Afsoon.
Hi, everyone. Like I stated in my introduction, I'm the major over Northeast Colorado. District 3, and forging a career in law enforcement as a male-dominated industry is, I can tell you, it's one of the most exciting things I've ever done. At no point in my career, joining or going through this career and navigating that path, forging my place here, have I ever thought, I can't do that, I'm a woman. But it's really been about what everyone that's already spoken has said about forging ahead and taking those steps and going into the unknown with the ability to navigate through, knowing that you can be agile and you can pivot and adjust to the changes. Take the skills and the training that your organization provides you and really succeed. I can tell you the Colorado State Patrol is the best place to work in Colorado. I'm a little biased. Working under, the Colorado Department of Public Safety with the Colorado State Patrol has given me the opportunity to serve my community and provide them with the best that I have. Part of the question is what challenges have I faced? And I'll tell you, as an individual, all individuals face challenges, and it's your role to find out what your challenges are and what your obstacles are and navigate through those, definitely through networking. What I could tell you with the Colorado State Patrol, and that has changed over time for our up and coming leaders, is we have the support of our organization from the top down. We banded together, the women banded together and created what's known as a Women's Resource Network. It is a resource for the women in our agency. As you all know and have heard in today's leadership panel, that networking is vital to personal and professional growth. And our agency has been incredibly supportive in allowing us to have that sort of program for our members. It's open to all female troopers, that law enforcement number, but it's also open to all of our members in CSP to find a path, to find those mentors, to network for resources to help further themselves. And then for the up and coming leaders, how things have changed over time, law enforcement is ever evolving. It's different every day we come to work, and to find your strength and your value and what you bring to the table is what helps you overcome those obstacles and challenges and really forge your way in your own future. It's an exciting time to be part of that change.
Great advice. Brenda from Fire, tell us a little bit about your experience working in Fire, which is still pretty heavily male dominated, and your journey getting to this very leadership position.
Well, my career has been filled with adventure, accomplishment, failure, and fun. In public safety, there is always adventure. And many times when I'm watching an action movie or a drama movie, I scoff because I say, we do those decisions every day. I know people who can do those cool things. Why do I need to watch a movie about it? And that's what attracts a lot of people to the industry. But also if I look at what challenges I've had, I've experienced every form of sexual harassment other than assault. And I'm just being honest. In the early 90s, I had gear sabotaged. I had PPE stolen. I don't think that will surprise a lot of you, but things got better when you can show you can do the job and you can do it well. As years went on, when things weren't so open and bold with harassment, there were veiled insults and condescension. But things got better when you can show that you can do the job. I still have people who purposefully don't include me in communications, but I adapt around it and use my superpower of polite persistence. And sometimes they just have to communicate with me because I won't go away. And that's how I've adapted to those barriers. So I think when we look at how far we've come, we have to recognize those things, but also being consistent and professional will take you a long way.
Great, thank you, Brenda. And I hear a consistent theme of persistency here and not taking no. Jan, you are a persistent and powerful woman. Tell me about your experience and that same question of working in a male-dominated career field and your perspectives on this question.
Thank you. This is a great conversation, and I actually think it should be another hour or longer because the perspectives of everybody is terrific. And I have a plaque in my office that was given to me by a female member of my staff here in Arvada, and it says, "Empowered women empower women." And that couldn't be more appropriate for this panel, because my start in management started with a tap on the shoulder by a female supervisor back in Chicago. I was only 10 years on the bench, and she tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Jan, you have people skills. You have a personality, and you know how to respect people. The management journey can be taught, and you will learn it." And she really encouraged me to take that step. And I feel it is so important that we continue to empower each other and build on this mentoring, because it is a male-dominated field. I grew up with two brothers who are both were troopers in Illinois. They just recently retired, and all the stories around the dinner table was about how great they were, and that they solved the crime and not forensics. And so that just encouraged me more and more to ensure that I learned everything I could about forensics and continue to work hard and take every opportunity to work hard, to learn, and ensure that when I spoke that I was factual. Please, if you don't know the answer, don't try to push it, because you will be seen through it, and then you will not have the respect at the next meeting by the male-dominated industry or our managers or outside customers that we speak to. It's really important that we don't try to, if you don't know the answer, say you don't know and that you'll find it, but don't try to push it. And it's really something that I live by to help encourage our own females within forensics. In Illinois, the leadership in forensics was more female dominated, but in the sworn side, it was all male dominated. When I was recruited here and found myself in this deputy director position, I had many female employees, other CBI, non-forensic, tap me on the shoulder in the hallway, never met them before, and I was told I broke the glass ceiling. I really did not know the magnitude of that. I said, glass ceiling, you know, because again, it was female dominated in Chicago. But in fact, I learned very shortly thereafter that that was really true. And so it's really important that we continue these conversations to ensure that we are mentoring and helping, because there is a bias, and women have to make sure that we're speaking factually and that we learn all that we can, and that we really, I find that, you know, no cheese with that wine. Don't whine. No whining allowed, because that we get judged by our emotional intelligence, and it can be viewed as we're less qualified to deal with that situation. So no whining allowed is what I say. And so I really appreciate, and there's more questions and more folks to add to this conversation. So thank you, Patricia, and all the colleagues here.
Thank you, Jan. Kirstie, would you like to add anything to this topic before we move on to the next question?
Well, I have to agree with what the other women panelists have said, that yes, that there are many challenges out there for women. Many of us have experienced different kinds of harassment, maybe even before we knew that that was defined as harassment. I think we have to not let ourselves be defined by that, and take those experiences to build our strength and to make sure that we mentor other women as they work through those same kinds of issues. I think one of the things that is really important for us as women is maybe not to, I think it's very important to understand the tradition of and the culture of the places that we work, and for instance, obviously the Colorado State Patrol and its traditions and culture, but we also have to be able to recognize when it's time to work to change those traditions and cultures when they might have a disparate impact on other members for people who want to work here. And I think the good news is, if you want to work here, we are working on those kinds of things daily, and we have the right kinds of leadership that are helping us to tackle those. But it also means that not only do we need to hear from people at the top, we also need to hear from people who want to join us and from people who have most recently joined us, so that we can check ourselves and make those positive changes. So maybe some don't have to experience some of the negative things that we have experienced.
Great, thank you. We have about 15 minutes left, and we do want to see if we can open up some questions from the audience. So we're going to go into 2 lightning rounds, as we'll call it. So for these next 2 questions, just in a minute or less, let's open it up. I'm going to skip first to this next question. You've touched on this some, but in addition to what you've covered, what advice do you have for other women considering a career in public safety? Or what advice would you give to the next generation of female leaders? So in a minute or less in our lightning round, let's start with Jan, and we'll go back through our other panelists.
Sorry, did you say Jan or
Jan
Jana?
Girten. Jan
Okay.
Girten.
Almost like me. Go.
Sorry, Jana. I say go for it. It is a very noble career. There is no better career in for public service than maybe healthcare, where there is a constant need and an opportunity to serve and give back. Public safety is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity and a place to do it. And so you have to believe you can do it so that you can do it. Thank you.
Great. Afsoon.
So my advice is go after your goals and be deliberate. Like I said before, understand what your strengths are and what you bring to the table, and be confident in the direction that you go. Find those role models, find that inspiration, whatever that is for you. Find your mentors. I didn't get to where I was going without the people before me that helped me and the people around me that I'm helping bring up. So work hard and find a way as we forge into the future, whatever the position is that you're looking at within the Department of Public Safety, to serve our communities in a more efficient and effective way. And most importantly, as a leader, take care of your people.
Great. Brenda, your advice.
I would ask, why do you want to be in public safety? And if your answer is, I want to help people, I would challenge you to be more thoughtful. There's lots of ways to help people. If you want to be in public safety, it takes more. So if you have the passion, you're needed. If you have that internal compass of right and wrong, you're needed. If you have that strength, whether it's physical strength, mental strength, or compassion strength, we need you. Because to serve in public safety and be successful, it's going to require more. And you probably have it. You just need to dig for it and grow it. Thank you.
Sarah, your advice.
Yeah, I would recommend that you take opportunities when they're presented to you, and they could be challenging, but to not be afraid to take on that challenge and to really seek out people who can help you be successful as well. And I also can't reiterate how important it is that as women that we grab each other by the hand and pull each other up. I think in all of my experience, the most difficult situations that I've been presented with were actually stemming from other women. And I think if we can squash that, we'll be much, much better for not only ourselves, but accomplishing the mission of what we're trying to accomplish. So definitely important that we lift each other up instead of bringing each other down.
Right. Melissa, your advice.
Yeah, I had this whole thing about mentors and how amazing mentors are, and building that network, and then paying it forward and being a mentor for people who want to thrive in this industry. And everybody has really touched on that. And so I think my unique lightning round perspective is be a woman leader. Don't try to be a male leader. You're bringing really unique things to the conversation. You're bringing unique skill sets as a female leader within the organization that your male counterparts probably don't have. And so I think there's strength in vulnerability. And I think don't let them see you sweat. For me, I let them see me sweat. Sometimes I cry in times that I know my male counterparts aren't crying, because I think there are things that I know that I'm bringing to the table that they can't. And so that's my advice is know what your strengths are, know what you're bringing to the table, and embrace it. And if they don't like it, if it's uncomfortable, that's not on you. You are who you are, and you are providing value. Keep it up.
Great. And that's a great segue to our final lightning round set of questions before we open it up to our audience questions. Public safety is very time consuming, high stress, long hours, exposure to trauma. So tell me about how you balance your career and your personal life, your health and mental health. And let's start with Sarah Allen.
Yeah, that's like the $1 million question. You know, at the State Patrol, our mission is to save lives. And really, we can't do that unless we are first taking care of ourselves. And I think I will be useless if I don't first take care of myself. And that's my body, my mind, and my spirit, and really focused on what matters most. We all know that our service will take every ounce of us if we let it. And being able to focus and be present and paying attention to things outside of the workplace is really important. And if I'm not healthy, if I'm not well, I'm not going to be a good significant other. I'm not going to be a good mom. I'm not going to be a good friend. I'm not going to be a good daughter. And eventually I won't be a good chief of staff either. So strategy-wise, in this lightning round, you got to identify hobbies and things to do that is just purely self-care. Even though it might seem super selfish, you have to take time for yourself. And committing time to that self-care on a daily, weekly basis is super important. So it's hard to do. And there are a lot of women on this call right now who have to remind me to take my own advice. So identify those people in your life too, and make sure they hold you accountable.
For sure. Jana, what are your tips for balancing career and personal life?
Thanks, Patricia. Yeah, I'd echo what Sarah said. You have to practice what you preach, and sometimes it's easier to preach it than to practice it. And making sure that we are taking care of ourselves on a daily basis, doing those things that allow us to be present at home and at work. You know, I think going back to a few other points, I have 2 young kids. My son was a baby when I took this job, and I almost didn't take it because of that. I think if you wait for the timing in your life to be perfect, especially as a woman, it might never be. And so when you have opportunities, I would say seize them. It is possible to have a big job and little kids. It's not always easy. It's not always pretty, but it can be done. And I think just making sure that you are taking care of yourself to be at your best, both for those who count on you at home and at work, it's really important. I would just say I have an awesome mentor in Kathy Sasak, who used to be the Deputy Executive Director and the Executive Director at Public Safety. And I remember so clearly at her retirement party, she said when she was taking on a job as the Assistant DA, she said, I told my boss, I want this job, but I have a young kid and my family comes first. And I think just hearing somebody say that out loud paves the way for it to be okay to say, yes, I have a family, and yes, I can do this job.
Great. And Susan, I know family is super important to you and one of your highest values. Tell us about how you balance that with your career.
Yep. Again, echoing the statements of my fellow lightning round panelists here. I actually had that conversation with Director Sloan when I was hired at CBI, and he knew me before. So when I say I'm a mom first, I'm a mom first. Now, what does that look like? Well, what it looks like is, in fact, I was lucky today. I was actually supposed to be at a softball field watching my daughter play, and I was going to do this panel discussion from the car on my phone, but obviously with the snow, it got canceled. But you'll often find me times with my mobile kit on the go, and I'll be at a softball game, and we'll be answering, media questions and working on policy. There have been times when, I'm Italian. We have Sunday dinner every weekend, not in the pandemic, but, we have pasta every Sunday, and reporters have come to the house to do quick interviews because I'm just not willing to leave the house. And yes, maybe they came in for a plate of pasta, so it benefited them as well. But, I think it's really important that you find your places where you have work and you have family, and a lot of times they blend and meld, and that is okay because you're having what you want in this life. And mine is to be in service to others and be in service to my family. But that mental health piece is really critical. And what I would implore to the panel here and those who are with us, yes, heed that advice, but know that just because you're a woman and you're working so hard to achieve your goals, you cannot ignore what's going on inside your bodies and your minds, and how that can impact your life. So I have triggers that I know when I'm sort of spiraling a little bit and things are getting too much and overwhelming to me. And so I lean on my friends, my mentors, to remind me, hey, have you run today? Have you been working out? Are you sleeping well? And I appreciate that. So while we try to do that balance and have that really focus on the mental health piece.
Right. So now we learned that there is literal secret sauce to why CBI gets such good media coverage, and it's your secret sauce.
It is sauce and not gravy for our East Coast Italians.
Ah, yes. So we just have a few minutes left. Sheila or Debbie, any last thoughts you'd like to add to this this topic of balancing career and personal life?
I would say you have to be flexible, adaptable, but above all, you've got to keep your sense of humor. We're working long hours, we're saving lives and property, and it's not going to get any easier as we try to find what is life after COVID. So keep that. And the other bit of advice I'd say is don't walk into a brick wall. If you've got some obstacle in front of you, don't run into it. Find a way around it, find a way over it, find a way to open the brick wall, but don't run into it. And then the last thing is chill out. Find that hour in the evening, you just chill out. Yes, we've got our 2 phones, put them aside, find an hour, watch something on TV, read, yes, everybody's got those phones, but chill out. Just find that time that you can just let it all hang out, just do something different, take your mind off work and find a little balance that way.
And I would just add keeping things in perspective. In terms of what really is important and not getting too hung up on anything. And then the other piece is that some folks have mentioned is, always being honest about the importance of your family. And as I talked about earlier, this being a passion of mine, I've been able to show that to my children. And so if there was a time where they needed to be, come to the office with me because I was going there really late or what have you, I wouldn't be afraid to show that. And I think that also helped set the tone for other working moms. But I think that has also helped my guilt that I experience because my children have really been able to see that I'm doing what I love. And I think I hope they will look to that too in their futures.
Great. Thank you all so much. We are close to time, but if you can stay on just a few minutes more, those of you who need to go, we won't keep you, but we've got a few questions from our audience, so if any of you can stay on, we'll just take a couple of those and hold you for an extra 5 minutes. Alice, if you are able to hop into that chat, and I believe our first question had to do with interviewing advice.
Sorry, yeah, I was getting really enjoying the panel discussion. I'm looking for that question. I believe it was to the effect of, oh, there it is. What factors of your interview style and the way you sell yourself contributed to your ability to land jobs that you didn't have experience in?
So for our fake it till you make it folks, for those of you who jumped into jobs where you really had to learn a lot, anyone want to take on advice for that in a brief answer?
Patricia, I'd be happy to. So the one thing I said is jokingly, I did always prepare and study for those things. But in addition, my one line in every interview is that I focus on my hard work ethic, stress that to people, and then always say, one thing I can guarantee you is if there's something I don't know or that I don't know how to do, I will guarantee I will figure it out. So acknowledging you don't know everything, but you will get there.
Great. And then any other questions from the chat, Alice?
We do. One more great one. So much has been talked about in terms of how important it is to have a mentor. As a young person in government who's just at the beginning of this career, how do I identify and find and approach someone to be that mentor?
I can take that on. You know, I welcome anyone who would care for me to mentor them somehow or to help them find someone that they would like to have mentor them, I would offer that to anyone. I am guessing all of the women on the panel would do the same. And I think sometimes you find that you have informal mentors, and it's really great to latch on to them. And I would say I had a lot of informal mentors in my career, and people who just maybe recognized something in me that maybe I didn't. And so it's good to look for those people. And I think you just need to ask. I think if you see someone out there that you would like to learn from, then ask them. And I bet the answer will be yes.
So I know we're a little bit over time. I want to say an enormous thank you to all of our panelists. You are wonderful and inspiring. I think from our chat, we can see people were inspired by you. And I think you'll be having people reach out for that mentorship. Thank you for being leaders, for being mentors, for taking your time out of your day today. And thank you to everyone who joined us today for this event. And we hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful rest of Women's History Month. We'll see you later.
Thank you, everyone. I just want to say you had me in tears at some point, so I really appreciate it. It was good to hear.
Thanks, Anna.